Welcome to another episode of the Endurance Matters podcast. I am so delighted to have an amazing guest on the episode today. Siri Lindley, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Justin. I'm so thrilled to be here. I've been looking forward to it, and we're going to have a great time. So thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So I start off the podcast with a hard-hitting question. My question for you today is, who has mucked more horse poo, you or Beck?
That's a great question. Between the two of us and having 32 horses, I'd say we both do our fair share.
You're getting the mucking muscles sorted out. Jeannie became a little bit of an expert mucker there for a little bit. She was working on the farm and working with the horses, getting the muck going. So she actually came up with that icebreaker question.
Well, I wish she could come here and fly to California every day and help us some more. It was so fun having her around. So both of you need to come out and I'll give you a shovel the minute you show up.
I think she was looking at flights yesterday when she came back from, Siri had a documentary that premiered here in Boulder. So Jeannie went to the documentary premiere and she was looking at flights yesterday. So I think we'll be coming somewhat soon.
Training camp.
Yeah, totally.
Perfect
100%.
training camp. Can't wait.
Totally. All right. Well, I want to start off today by maybe you just rewinding and talking to me a little bit about your upbringing and how you first got into sports.
So, okay, that's a great start. You know, as a child, and I think so many people out there can relate to this, I had a tough childhood and I had a lot of anxiety. I had a lot of fear. And one thing I knew is that the one place where I felt free of my anxiety and my fear was on the sporting field, whether it was playing field hockey or lacrosse or ice hockey. The only place where I felt free from my anxiety was with sports. And so that was great. I mean, basically, anxiety and OCD can lead you to a great career in sports. So I wouldn't change a thing. But I started, my dad was very encouraging with every sport that I did. He'd come to every single game that I played. He was more into the winning. He didn't really care how I performed. He just wanted me to win. Whereas on the other hand, my mom always wanted me to be enjoying it and to have fun and to, support my dreams. And so I had a really nice balance, I guess, between the two. But I would say sports for me, and I'm surprised I never took up Ironman, Justin, because, if I could be free of anxiety at that time as a teenager for, 9-10 hours, that would have been pretty amazing. But yeah, so for me, it was my escape. And also, I think a lot of us become achievers when we're trying to find our way through challenge. We're trying to, there was a time, and you'll all see this eventually in my documentary, where my parents were divorced. My mom married a big celebrity who was very famous. They traveled all the time for 2-3 weeks at a time. And my sister and I were often left alone. We had a nanny, but she was never there. I don't know why, but she was never there. So my sister kind of took the route of partying and, alcohol and stuff like that. And I was left alone a lot, and it was painful, and I had a lot of fear. But what I realized was that when I was playing sports, or even in my academics, if I was getting great grades, if I was like scoring goals, I got attention, and I got love, and people would celebrate me, and because of that, the achiever in me was born. And again, it's great that I actually loved sport, but I think oftentimes, our superpowers are born in the pain, and that's exactly what it was for me.
Yeah, very cool. And ultimately, you transitioned that into being a collegiate athlete. You were competing in 3 collegiate sports. Is that correct?
Yeah, I played field hockey, ice hockey, and lacrosse at Brown University. I think I was the first female ever to play 3 varsity sports. And again, it was because that was my escape, and I loved it. But after I graduated from college, I'll get into this story, I guess. I realized I was gay. And at that time in the world, it wasn't accepted in my family, especially on my dad's side. Like that was not a good thing. And my dad, who for a long time had been my hero and my best friend, when he found out I was gay, he just cut me out of his life. And for a 21-year-old or 22-year-old, the story that tells you is that because of who you are, you're not worthy of love. And I know this sounds like a different kind of a start to getting involved in triathlon, but I had a friend, I was working a 70-hour-a-week job at the YMCA. This is after I graduated from college, and she asked me to come watch her in a triathlon. And I had no idea what a triathlon was. I was like, how do I dress? What do I wear? What is this all about? But oh my God, I got out there, and it was all these people, different ages, different sizes, different ability levels. And I was just in awe because every single one of these people, no matter how different they were, seemed to be finding themselves through this challenge of swimming, biking, and running. And at that time, I felt so desperate to prove to myself, most importantly, that even as a gay woman, I could achieve something that I thought was spectacular. I could inspire others. I could make a difference. I could find a love and respect for myself, even though at the time, I just lost a lifetime of love because of who I was. And triathlon became it. I'm like, here, I didn't know how to swim. I started triathlon at 23 years old, did not know how to swim. I knew how to float, but all I knew was the swan. My mom has this like beautiful blonde hair, and she doesn't like getting it wet because it takes her a long time to fix it up. So she'd do the swan, everything happening under the water. And that's all I knew. But I set this insane goal after my first race where I came in dead last. And Justin, everyone listening, imagine the worst. They asked me, what's your 100-meter swim time? Because it was in a pool. It was an 800 meters in a pool. And I'm like, 100 meter? I've never swum 100 laps. And I'm so confused, and the line is building behind me, and people are getting irritated. And the lady's like, what's your 100-meter time? Is it 115, 120, 125, 130? I'm like, I don't know, 115, because I didn't know what she meant. So I get in this lane, and I'm so eager. I'm like first in line, and oh my God, in the first 30 seconds, I just got kicked and hit and dunked under the water, and it was a disaster. But the best part about it was, by the time everyone else had finished the 800, I had the whole pool to myself for the whole swim. Got on the bike, I rented a mountain bike, felt like I was climbing the Alps, even though it was I went back 10 years later, dead flat. And I ran the whole 5K with my helmet on. And I'm wondering why people were laughing at me. It was a disaster. I came in dead last. But on that day, it's I was so desperate to do something epic that would help me find a worthiness from within. And I decided that I will devote my entire life until I'm 100 years old towards getting to the top of this sport. And that's where it all began. But man, I had, how was I ever going to close that gap from where I was on that day to where I dreamed of being? That was going to be an epic journey, but that's how it all started.
Sure. Do you feel like at that point, sort of maybe graduating college, you don't have your varsity athletics anymore, you're trying to figure out the next stage in your life, and seemingly up until that point, sports was always just something you immersed yourself in to find that comfort, and you have this, disagreement with your father, you're maybe more lost than you've been in a while. Did you feel as though triathlon and the training that comes with it was a safe space for you?
Absolutely. And, when you think about all of us, when you set a goal, it's how am I going to close this gap? And, I remember asking myself two questions. And I think when you have a great goal, whether it's finishing your first Ironman or finishing your first race, it's how are you going to get from where you are now to where you dream of being? And one of the first questions I asked was, what do I need to let go of? To make this happen, what do I need to let go of? And is it a belief? Is it a fear? Is it a habit? Maybe you drink too much beer and you're going to have to stop that if you want to do an Ironman. I needed to let go of this story that was inevitable in my mind. That's, Siri, you're 23, you don't know how to swim, and you just came in dead last. Like, no matter how much you love this sport, it's not for you, right? And I think a lot of people here can resonate with that. If I wanted to achieve this huge, lofty goal, I needed to let go of that story and tell a different story. And it wasn't based on lies, but it was based on the fact that, hey, I've been an athlete my whole life. I know how to work hard. This is my safe space. Like, I love this. I'm passionate about it for all these reasons. Maybe one day I can, make it to the top. And so that's what I needed to let go of. And I needed to live that story, like future me that's going to be the best in the world one day. What actions would she take today? What would she do? What would she believe? So I kind of thought about it, and I thought, well, I immersed myself in the sport, as every triathlete I think does, like learning everything about swimming, biking, running, recovery, eating, race strategy. I got a coach. I learned how to swim. I did all these things. And then I thought, maybe the way I can get to where I want to be is like model the best in the world. So like, there's some young Ironman athletes out there, like find someone that has done what you dream of doing right here. Justin Metzler, like, what does he do? And so I was like, the best athletes in the world at that time were in Australia, and I studied them. What were they doing? They were training, 5-6 hours a day. So even though I'm working the 70-hour-a-week job, but I was like, okay, I'm going to train 6-7 hours a day. I trained before work. I trained during my lunch hour. I trained after work. I ate a healthy dinner, went to bed, did it over and over again every day, even though I sucked. Like, I sucked at that time. But the thing is, as you commit to mastery, after a few months and definitely after a year or two, I didn't suck anymore. So those of you out there, you got your like Justin Metzler is right here, like study him. What does he do? How did he get to the top? Do what he does, even though you're not him yet. Do everything that he does, because one day you will find yourself the level that you dream of being. And that's exactly what I did. I modeled the best. I chose to live a story that empowered me versus disempowered me. And there were like a lot of other things that had to happen. And I think this is useful for all of you listening. Like the second question after what do I need to let go of to close this gap from where I am to where I dream of being is, who do I need to become? To achieve that, to finish your first Ironman, who do you need to become? And I knew that I needed to become someone that was willing to fail, because I was going to fail over and over and over again. And so I needed to see failure as a necessary part of one day being successful, and see that failure is when we learn. And, when we learn, that's when we grow, and that's how we become the person that we need to become to achieve that big goal, right? So for all of you, and Justin, I'd be interested in how do you define failure, but also how do you define success?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I don't often get people asking me questions, but
amazing.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's really just, and I've thought a lot about this over the last couple of years when I've had great success and I've had a lot of failures. And I realized that for me, it's just about going back to where I started and trying to get the most out of myself and enjoy the process, because I love triathlon. And the moments in which I am not having fun and I'm not enjoying it, I want to delete those moments from my life. And the best version of myself comes out regardless of where the finish is, if I'm just extracting everything of my potential in the preparation and actually on race day. So I'm not defining things necessarily in wins and losses. I think I'm defining things in like, how much of my potential was I able to extract? Was it 100%? Okay, cool. I'm fulfilled,
That's so amazing. Guys, listen to this guy. Like, he's got it right. And when you're, how do you not get discouraged, right? When you're starting and it doesn't look like you're getting anywhere, even though you are, like, how do you not get discouraged? And like, I mean, I got laughed at all the time. I would get in lanes way too fast for me because I was so desperate to get better. People laughed at me. They thought, why are you training 6 hours a day when you suck? Like, I don't understand. But the reason why I didn't get discouraged is success to me was progress. If
Yeah,
I'm
that's huge.
making even the tiniest bit of progress, whether it's physically, mentally, emotionally, maybe someone laughed at me and this time I only cried for a minute instead of 5 minutes, like, that's progress. And every day I sat down in my journal and I logged my progress. I celebrated whatever the wins were, no matter how small. And because of that, every day I felt successful. And success builds upon success. So you must, for yourself, you must decide that it's all about the progress.
Yeah.
Because over time, those 1%, points of progress for you, ultimately, suddenly you look back and it's like, whoa, look how far I've come. So Justin, I love that. And I think, when I really started winning races, it's exactly what you just stated. I would step to the line and I would say, God, I feel so blessed that you have blessed me with this grit, this resilience, this never give up attitude. And I am going to put everything I have inside of me out on this race course, because that's my way of saying thank you. Thank you for these gifts. And that, when I shifted to that perspective, when it wasn't about win or lose or what time I do it in or, what place, when it was just this celebration of all the work that I'd done, celebration of all, all that I have inside of me, and laying that out there, it became an effort of flow versus an effort of force. And that made all the difference.
Sponsor of today's episode, Precision Fuel and Hydration. These guys have been an amazing partner for the show, and it's really a product that I use every single day in my training to help me go faster, feel better. So in today's day and age, we all know high carb is sort of the thing. And so previously I've spoken about how much I like the chews, and I'm still munching on those pretty much every single day in training, but I've really been getting into the PF90 gels. That's been a really big value add for me to have 3 gels in one. And I feel like sometimes I'll just take that entire gel all at once or go half and half. It just allows me to get a little bit more carbohydrate and sort of just bump everything up and feel a little bit better in training. So if you want to try that for yourself, head on over to pfnh.com and use code BigMetz2025 for 15% off. Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. And I'm really resonating to the progress component. And I feel like, at least for myself, the majority part of the first 10 years of my career, I was just able to make those little jumps in progress. And that's why I feel like I've had a long career and I've enjoyed it so much, is because every year I felt like I got better. But as you know, from coaching and from your career and everything that you've done, like, the higher you get up the tree, the less low-hanging fruit there is available. So what would your take be on athletes, maybe like myself, who have been doing this quite a long time, or maybe are pursuing something else for a very long time, and there's less low-hanging fruit available, and those progress chunks are harder to come by?
Yeah. Then you have to look through a different lens. It's like, maybe you're so focused on the progress of your swim times, your bike times, your run times. How about your progress in other areas? For me, when I won my first world championship, like, the victory actually wasn't about putting the gold medal around my neck. The victory truly, and the victory I cherish to this day, is who I became on the journey, and recognizing how I changed as a human for the better, how I handled, the worst moments of my career, how I took that and saw that as a gift in some way. I was able to look back at it and say, hey, if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't have made the decision to go to my final coach. That was an amazing shift for me. For you, and what I admire and respect so much about you, is you're not afraid to change things up. You have a tough patch. And I feel like you don't sit there, like, we're all going to sit there. You get injured or something, happens where you're deeply disappointed. It's okay to love yourself through that moment. But then it's like, get up, dust yourself off. What must I shift? How must I pivot? And I've seen you do that. And I think that's extraordinary because we can get caught up on thinking that this is a way that I've achieved success in the past, so I can only achieve success this way. But it's when you actually are brave enough and courageous enough to try something different. Maybe you've trained so hard, you train your epic training, you're known for your epic training, which I think you are. And you think to yourself, you know what, maybe if I do less and I do it kind of with a different perspective, that's going to get me what I want. And I'll give you an example, actually. Leanda Cave. So I forget the exact year. I think it was 2012. She came to me and she wanted to win the Ironman World Championship. And when she'd been a decorated athlete, she'd achieved so much already. But she came to me, and what I felt was she needed a total shift in how she was training. And what I love and admire and respect so much about her is when I'm changing her swim stroke, even though she was leading out all the swims, and I didn't know how to swim when I was 23, but she trusts me enough to change her swim stroke, and which made her even faster, completely changed her run. Her technique, her cadence, changed the way that she trained. She used to train hours and hours on end. And I'm like, no, we're going short, fast. You're going to feel like you're training for an Olympic distance race. And she trusted me. And we made these shifts. And if you think about it, everyone, it's like when you train the same way for a long time, think about how your body will respond to a different stimulus that it's not used to. And suddenly you're doing this different thing. You're going all speed work and, short stuff and lots of rest and less, not that we weren't doing any long stuff, we were, but it's way more short, sharp stuff. She ended up like, we weren't expecting this. We went off to do the 70.3 World Championships. She won it. Weren't expecting that. Go off 3 weeks later and she wins the Ironman World Championship. But you've got to be brave enough, and I know that you are, Justin, because I've seen you do it, to trust that this journey through triathlon isn't just about swimming, biking, and running. It's about who you become. And
Totally.
Because of that, nothing moves without pressure. And sometimes that pressure has to come from doing something that's so terrifying because it's so different to what you're used to. But you will be rewarded for that bravery every time. So I hope that answers your question. But I guess what I'm saying is that don't keep doing things the same way that you always have. There's growth there. There's personal growth. And I think the biggest thing for athletes is I want you all to understand that it is 80% mental, at least 20% physical. So if you're not working on that mental game, like there's your shift, there's your game changer, because the mindset is everything.
Yeah, that's huge. I definitely want to circle back to some mindset specific questions, but while we're on the topic of Leanda, I want to spend some time focusing specifically on like the empire that you built with Team Sirius and that time in your life, because that was such a impressive thing that you built. So I guess the first question that I have is, when did you decide to retire from racing, and when was it an immediate shift right into the coaching and right into Team Sirius?
Yep. First of all, thank you. Like, you just gave me goosebumps. Thank you. That was an extraordinary compliment. Means the world. When I won my world championship in 2001, I was ready to retire. Like, I found what I was looking for, and that was a worthiness from within. It was me believing that, like, I'm going to be okay. Even living life as who I am, like, I'm going to be okay. I can do hard things. I can achieve my dreams. So I was ready to retire, but I also, what is the meaning you give when you achieve your ultimate goal? And I think that it's easy for athletes. They achieve that ultimate goal and it's like, oh my God, okay, reached my quota. I better play it safe now. And that's not what this life is meant to be. I knew that I needed to give winning a different meaning that would inspire me and empower me to want to reach for more. And so I thought, okay, maybe this is just a preview of coming attractions. Maybe I've only scratched the surface of what I'm capable of. Maybe that's what this means. So I need to put together one more year. And I vowed to myself, even though I was so exhausted, that I was going to just pour everything I had into one more year. And fortunately, I was able to finish my career having won 13 World Cups. I won the world title again that year, and I retired at #1 in the world. But all I wanted was to help other athletes like me. You know, the ones, the Mirinda Carfrae, who was a basketball player, and she was, you know, short. Sorry, Rennie, but you are. And, you know, it's like the unlikely one to become this, you know, legendary champion. But I wanted to help athletes that had big dreams like me prove to themselves that they can change the stories, basically, that they were living, and see how far we could go. And I wouldn't say that any of my athletes that came to me were like extraordinary when they came, but they were willing to commit to mastery. They were willing to go all in. They were willing to come together with other athletes and know that we're there to lift each other up and become better. But there's no greater feeling than working together with an athlete and seeing them like win the Ironman World Championships. Like, to me, it was like a million times more powerful than doing it myself. I knew that I wanted to do that. I knew I wanted to do it in the way that worked best for me. You know, it was my final 2 years of racing that I went to Brett Sutton. He had a squad. They were like super passionate and competitive, and it was intense, and it was, you know, dramatic, I would almost say, because it was massive. I knew I wanted to have a squad, but I knew I wanted to do it differently than the way he did. I'm forever grateful to that man. Like, he brought out in the documentary, there's actually, I can't share that line, but watch the documentary. There's a line that's just like, I blew my mind. He brought out the champion in me, and I'm forever grateful for that. But there are things that I did not want to do, which, you know, like, I wanted to have a supportive environment where gratitude is the major theme, and encouragement and love. You know, love wasn't in the picture. Like, don't have your mom, you know, to training camp because she loves you too much, and that love makes you weak. Like, and I would always still bring my mom and hide her in my condo and have her support me. But anyways, like, I wanted a different vibe around it, but I also was going to take everything that was so powerful that he gave or provided us with, which was the philosophies and the strategies and all of that I brought. So I just created a squad the day after I retired, after the Cancun World Cup. Somebody asked me to coach them, and I said, awesome, I'll build a squad and let's go. And that's where it all began. And, you know, that was 20 years of my life. God, I'm old. I don't feel old, though. So, guys, 50s is like the best time of your life, just so you know. And I started coaching, and I've been so blessed, Justin, to have had the privilege and opportunity of working with such extraordinary human beings. And I think, you know, you look at Mirinda Carfrae, we worked together, I think it was for like 11 years. And it's that trust. It's that one of the things I demanded from my athletes is that I'm going to be pouring everything I have into making your dream come true, and I need that same commitment back. I need to know that you are all in, because I'm going all in here. And that means you need to trust me. We'll talk. You always have a voice, but I need you to go all in. And especially with Ironman, like, I'd never done an Ironman. I'd never done a half Ironman. And here I'm making the promise that I'm going to do everything in my power to make you an Ironman world champion. It's kind of like, I mean, I even think I'd be like, I don't know. I don't know if I want to go to you. I think I'll go to Mark Allen, you know, who's like won millions of them. But so the fact that they trusted that they could trust my beliefs, my philosophies that soon became my own philosophies, very different to what anybody else was doing. That was everything. And sometimes you just, as an athlete, you have to have blind faith and just believing 1,000,000% in the plan that you're on, the coach that you have, and 1,000,000% belief in you. That belief will take you to the moon.
Totally.
But if there's doubt, if you're doubting anything, if you're second guessing, forget it. You may as well leave, because that is not going to take you where you want to go. It'll take you far, but it's not going to take you to the top. And so I'm very blessed to have had such extraordinary athletes that went all in with me, and it paid off in different ways. I didn't coach every single one the same way. I coached them all very differently. And that's because of the 80% mindset, and but I feel super blessed and I miss it. Sometimes I love my life right now. I live an amazing life, but sometimes I'm like, man, I used to love just showing up at the pool at 6 a.m., having my big squad there. I had the privilege of working with Jeannie for a while, and oh my God, like in that time working with Jeannie, I was like, maybe I need to go back to this, because I felt so passionate. I feel so passionate about her and her future in the sport, that there was a moment where I almost went back, and I'm like, I can't, I built too much here to go back. But I loved it. I hope I answered I'm sorry, I'm very long-winded, everyone.
No, I love it. I love it. This is amazing. One follow-up question that I have there is, you said you started over that time starting to develop your own coaching philosophies. I'm curious to hear if you have like one or two things that you did from a specific training perspective that were bread and butter backbone elements of the training plan, and then maybe one or two things that you did from a mental perspective or a psychological perspective with the athletes that you felt like broadly applied and took everybody up to a high level.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, say for swimming, for example, there are a lot of people say, this is how you swim. This is the swim stroke you need to adopt, and this is going to make you a great swimmer. That's not my belief. My belief is I look at the athlete, I look at how they move, I look at when are they swimming their fastest? How can they swim their fastest? And we can all have different strokes. I'll have, Rebecca Keat, my wife actually, but we changed her stroke to a windmill stroke. And she went from being a backpack swimmer to leading out in Kona one year. Taking Leanda's long stroke and having her go at a much faster stroke rate. I want you all to know that you need to know what's best for your body and how you move, and use that to determine your setup on the bike. I mean, you should have seen my setup on the bike. I looked like a grandma, but in that grandma position, I came to ride really well. But a lot of people might say, well, I can't look like that on the bike, so I'll just get down low. But if that's not what your body feels comfortable in, you're not going to ride well. So I think that's one key thing, is just really honor your body and find that swim stroke, that setup on your bike, that run technique that best supports you being able to perform at your greatest potential. I'm a huge fan, obviously, having come from short course and seeing, one of the things that I completely shifted in coaching Ironman athletes. And I thank Rinny for this, because I came to her and I'm like, this is what I believe is going to work. And she was kind of like, this is so different to everything else out there. I'm like, I'm going to train you like a short course athlete. And I think they're doing this much more now, but I'm going to train you like a short course athlete. We're going to do high speed sessions. We're going to do all of that. We're going to do long weekends, long bikes, long runs, long swims. But most of our work is going to be like training for short course. And that transformed everything for my athletes back then. I think I ask you, Justin, I think that's kind of more the way people are doing things now. Is that true? Or
it's getting very individualized. Like you mentioned, I think the training's being, prescribed to people based off maybe their physiology, and some people need the short and fast stuff. Some people need the long stuff. Some people need a little bit in between. So it's a bit all over right now.
Yeah, awesome. But I still, even once a week, I would suggest to everyone out there, no matter what distance you do some, fast stuff. Treadmill for me was always the greatest tool. You got to leave your mind behind because it's like, oh, well, what does this mean on the road? And if I go this speed on the treadmill, does that mean I'm going to run this? It's like they're totally separate things. You have your treadmill runs that are one thing, you have your outside runs, which is another. But treadmill sessions, if I could give you something that will take your run to the next level, like you start doing this over the next few months, 1 day a week of just turnovers, 20 seconds, don't start crazy. You've got to build up to this. But, I would do turnovers at like 20, 21 kilometers per hour, 20 seconds on, and then you just stand off rest, 20 seconds on, stand off rest. You do like 10, 15 of those once a week, you're gonna notice the change. But in that, you don't just do it aimlessly. You're focusing on like perfect technique. You're focusing on that great, run form. You're focusing on, not overstriding. You're focusing on that quick cadence. That in itself, simplest thing in the world, which will take your run to the next level. But do it mindfully and know how to pop off the treadmill without falling off the back. That'd be my biggest thing for the run. I don't know if you want me to keep going, but
No, that's great. Well, just a quick aside. Julie gave me that all the time, and my running was never better than when I was doing 10 by 20 seconds on, 20 seconds off on the treadmill once a week. And then I'd go run up Chapman, which is a big hill here in Boulder, in the afternoon. And that was like my gold standard for if I was getting in good run shape, I would just do that every Thursday. So there's definitely some trickle down. Sponsor of today's episode is Lever Movement. This is a really cool product. It allows you to get some body weight support on any treadmill. You pretty much put this device on there, you put on a pair of shorts, and you use a cord to be able to take off up to 40 pounds of body weight. So many of you know I had Achilles tendon surgery recently, and I've been using the lever over the course of the last 40 runs to work up to the point where I was able to run an hour on land today. So that was a big milestone for me. Additionally, I've realized over the course of that process how important this could be for keeping me healthy and getting in some speed work without that pounding on the road. So I'm definitely going to be using the lever over the course of the next months and years as I continue to get back fit, healthy, and ready to race. So if you're interested in trying a lever for yourself, head on over to levermovement.com and use code EnduranceMatters20 for 20% off all devices. How about from like a mental training or a mindset perspective? Because, at that time, I think the training groups were getting a little bit more notoriety. Social media was starting to come into play. People were getting a little bit more of an inside look into Team Sirius and what you guys were doing. And I just remember seeing you on deck yelling at them while they're riding in their swimsuits after a hard swim bike brick. And were there things that you brought to the table every day in the training group, or things that you did individually with athletes from a one-on-one mindset perspective? I know you helped Jeannie tremendously with her outlook and her mindset. Is there anything that like you think broadly applied to mostly everybody?
yes. And actually, I've gone back and interviewed a lot of my athletes, and it's crazy what they believe were the key things to the success of our squad and their own success. And I think you're onto this already, Justin, because, I heard you say earlier, like, you want to be happy. Like, if you're not enjoying it, like, then something needs to shift. I always, and for a while, people were calling me the cheerleader, and it's like, oh my God, you have no idea. Like, these people are training so hard, but I made it fun. Like, in their hardest sessions, like 40, 50s on 50 as fast as you can go in the pool, like, keeping it fun. Like, do you love it? And, dancing on, like, it's, you've got to be having fun. If you think about this, think in your mind, if you're thinking about how hard it is, oh my God, I have so many more to go, oh my God, this is so painful, that lowers your energy and thus your ability to crush it. Okay, but if you're doing it and it's like, oh my God, like she's crazy and I'm pushing so hard, you're looking for everything that you can appreciate about what you're doing in that moment. Like, man, I've got these amazing athletes that are pushing me. Siri's up there like dancing because she's happy at how well we're swimming. Like, this is so freaking hard. But what if you define hard as, if I'm going hard, I'm making progress, I am moving forward. Like, for me in a race, the thing that helped me win races, I could go to such deep levels of pain because I used to say to myself, going fast hurts. So man, I want to make it hurt. If I'm not hurting, I'm not going fast. So the more I dug deep, the more I hurt. I'm like, I must be going fast. And so I made that pain a good thing, a thing that I searched out, a thing that I wanted to feel because I knew that that pain meant success for me. So, but the theme in the interviews that we did, they said that the major things were gratitude, finding an appreciation for the fact that you get to do this. I mean, professionals, like, you get to do this. This is your life. This is extraordinary. You get to move your body. I live my life every day saying, I'm alive. Every breath I take is an absolute miracle. I get to, like, I am so stoked to be here with you, Justin, because I'm alive. What an opportunity. This is so fun. I get to help people. Like, so it's that gratitude and appreciation for everything. Even your losses, like, what can I learn from that? Man, I had a tough session today in the pool. So, you know, what can I learn from that? What can I do different? It's so that appreciation and that gratitude, not just for every single part of this journey, but for your teammates, for your coach, for yourself. It's reframing every single thing that happens in a way that empowers you and inspires you to move forward, rather than looking through the lens of what's wrong, how far I have to go, what's missing. So I was constantly, initially with a new athlete, reframing everything for them. Reframing a loss, reframing a disappointment, reframing, you know, how bad they feel. Yes, because you crushed yesterday's track session. This is amazing. And look, yeah, you swim 5 seconds slower on these 40, 50s fast, but you look at the track session you did yesterday. Imagine what you'll do when you're not fatigued. So by my reframing it for them in the beginning, and then the athletes that had been around for a while, they're reframing everything too. Suddenly we have these empowered athletes that in their worst moments are still empowered and moving forward. And so I think that, and I hope that makes sense, but it's gratitude, it's appreciation, it's love. It's love for what you do. It's like, and that's why in the middle of the hardest track sessions, I'm like, do you love it? And they'd be like, oh my God, what do you mean? Do I love it? And I'm like, yeah, how freaking awesome is this? You're out here crushing it. You're pushing yourself beyond what you think you can. You're on your way to achieving your dreams. Do you love it? And so these are simple things, but you must always be the champion of your own mind. And just know that, like, you know, a classic story, just to make an example of this, at the World Championships that I won, like, I came out of the water almost in last. Now, if you give that the meaning, it's over, there's no way I can catch up. So say you have a bad swim, you hope to have a better swim. Oh, that's it, it's over, I'll never catch up at the World Championships. Like, anything, me getting diagnosed, you know, they're telling me I have like a 5% chance of surviving. If I believe that this is the end, how am I going to show up? Am I going to show up ready to do whatever I can to survive and thrive? Or am I going to just like throw in the towel? If you think it's the end, you're going to throw in the towel. So in the World Championships that year, coming out and almost dead last out of the swim, but it's like that, I'm not going to give it the meaning this is the end, because I'll have the worst day ever. Instead, what if this is an opportunity for me to put my head down, go harder than I've ever gone before, and just see how close I can get to the front? Now that meaning, you know, put it in that way, it's an opportunity. Like, that gave me energy. I got on the bike. I'm going harder than I've ever gone before. I catch the fourth pack, the third pack, the second pack, and on the last lap of the bike, I'm at the front of the race. Imagine the confidence that gives you. And that's the day I won the World Championships. I mean, Rinny I forget what she won 3 times in Hawaii, but like, there was one year she came off the bike 13 minutes down, and she was in this race to win it. And she comes out, and I was always like a mile out from transition. And I see the look on her face, and she's all like upset 13 minutes down. And I yell to her and I say, "You're in perfect position." And she looks at me like, "What race are you watching?" But I said that because I knew that in her mind, she's going to be thinking, why would she think that I'm in perfect position? So she started thinking about all the reasons why she was in perfect position. Well, she loves coming from behind. You know, she loves hunting people down. And actually, I raced my own race on the bike and my legs feel amazing. So she's thinking of all the reasons why she's in perfect position. She runs her fastest 10K in Kona. She goes off. She catches every single person. She wins the world championship. So I want all of you to think of a past race where you gave up before you even started. You said, "Bad swim, that's not what I expected. This is going to suck today." And guess what? It will, because what you focus on, you create. So do yourself a favor, be the champion of your own mind in every moment, and think thoughts that are actually going to inspire you and empower you and give you every chance of achieving that epic dream that you have. But this has to happen all the time. All the time, be your own champion. Bring out the best in yourself. You can't afford to do otherwise. If you're on a path to greatness, which every single person is, no matter your level, we all are trying to live the best versions of ourselves. That's up to you.
100%. Yeah, you mentioned there that training for your athletes was 80% mental, 20% physical. You alluded to being diagnosed with cancer, I believe, 2019. Talk me through that process, getting that diagnosis, and maybe applying what you learned as a coach and an athlete to that particular scenario.
Yeah, I want all of you to know that this journey that you're on through sport, through endurance, is more valuable than you could ever imagine. You know, I got diagnosed in November of 2019. I was going in for a hip replacement because I trained so crazy. So some of you may need new hips, and that's okay. I feel like I got a new bionic hip. But on that day, they couldn't operate because there was something really wrong with my blood. And so I did a couple days of further testing and found out I had acute myeloid leukemia with a genetic mutation, and it did not look good. At most, maybe a 10% chance of surviving, and that was 2 clinical trials at UC Health Anschutz, the best hospital in the world, right there in Colorado. But in that moment of the diagnosis, you know, it's the meaning. Whatever challenge is happening to you, you've got to give it an empowering meaning. Whatever it is, maybe you're injured. What is the empowering meaning? I remember I got a foot injury. Running is how I, you know, placed in races. And I got this injury. I wasn't going to be able to run for 3 months. Well, what else could this mean? I can swim. I suck at swimming. I'm going to spend 3 months. I'm going to swim 10K every day. And guess what? Those 3 months where I did a massive swim block, when I came back to racing, I was now in a position to win, not just place, but to win. So what else could this mean? So I'm being given this diagnosis, and, you know, if I believe it's the end, I'm going to die. Like, I'm just going to throw in the towel. So I thought to myself, what if what I'm going through now is preparing me for what I asked for? And I say this anytime I am faced with a challenge. What if what I'm going through now is preparing me for what I asked for? So what did I ask for? Well, at this point in my life, like, I finally had found, you know, the freedom to love myself, the freedom to be with who I love, the freedom to do this life that I love, this mission, this purpose. Like, all I wanted at this time was to help guide others to their freedom, to living their best lives, because I felt like I knew how. But I felt like didn't have the confidence to really do that. And I thought maybe who I become in conquering this disease will be her, will be the woman that can help others find their freedom, live their best lives. And that motivated me. But then it comes down to like, hey, you know, in times of great uncertainty, you have to create your own certainty, right? And a lot of people are like, well, how the hell do I do that in an uncertain time? It's like, think about those things, like Justin, and you tell me, what are the things that you do? And you know that every time you do them, it fills you with confidence, you feel strong, you feel energized. Like, just name a couple things that always, always make you feel great.
Oh, I get out for a bike ride, go swim with my friends,
Yeah.
go take Millie for a walk with Jeannie.
Okay.
Those things.
So in times of great uncertainty, do those things that you know every time make you feel good. Then you'll know that whatever challenge, whatever you're working through, you're setting yourself up for success because you're doing things that are giving you that certainty, that confidence, that strength. So for me, you know, exercise, always movement for me has been that thing that always fills me with energy, makes me feel strong, makes me feel confident. So every day, even as I got sicker and sicker and sicker, I moved. You know, in hospital, I was in hospital for like, I don't know, 35 days. Like, I would move from the couch to the bed and log that as exercise. I'd move from the couch to the chair and log that as movement, and just logging it as movement, just acknowledging it as movement gave me energy. And the biggest thing of all, which I mentioned earlier, you know, I'd have moments, you know, where it was touch and go. I didn't know if I was going to have a tomorrow. I was that sick. And I remember lying in bed and I'm so sick and I'm so weak and I'm so terrified, and I'd be like in those emotions, and then I would stop myself because I've become the master of my mindset over many years of working on this. And I said, Siri, like, focusing on how weak you are, how sick you are, how scared you are is not going to help you heal. So I would change the channel, and we all have the remote control in our own hands to decide, instead of focusing on something that's making you feel like crap, change the channel and focus on something that makes you feel okay. So I would, you know, focus on gratitude. Like, my mom every night slept on the couch in my hotel room. This was during COVID, slept in the hospital. And I'd feel so grateful. And my amazing wife, who was giving me so much strength, the doctors like fighting for my life every day. That gratitude was the bridge from despair to hope. That gratitude gave me energy. When we have a higher energy, like, we think more resourcefully, we make better decisions. And I've always in my life had vision boards. I remember I had this picture of Karen Smyers. It was the front of Triathlete magazine, and the title was "On Top of the World, World Champion Karen Smyers." But I had put my face on her body. I covered up her name, and I put Siri Lindley. And honest to God, 8 years later, it was almost the same exact cover on Triathlete magazine, "On Top of the World, Siri Lindley, World Champion."
Amazing.
So I believe in vision boards. I had vision boards all over my hospital room, you know, reminding me of what I was fighting for. So I guess just in that, like, why do you do this, everybody? Why do you do what you do? Why do you have the job that you have? Why do you do triathlon? Why does this matter to you? Connect to that deeper reason why. Those vision boards reflected that for me. And then visualization, I think, is a tool that is incredibly powerful. And every day I would, lying in my hospital bed, close my eyes, and I would imagine myself running up my favorite mountain trail out there in Lyons, I forget the name, Hull Ranch. And I would bring it to life. So when you visualize, guys, bring it to life by using all your senses. You want to like feel like it's happening right now. So lying in my bed, I would close my eyes. I'd see myself running up Hull Ranch, feel the warmth of the sun on my cheeks. I'd smell the wildflowers. I'd hear my wife like encouraging me from up above. And actually I would like feel in my body the exhilaration of getting to the top and celebrating being cancer-free. I'm doing this lying in my bed, like hanging on for dear life. But every day I saw that exact visual using all my senses. And I'm telling you all right now, this is absolute truth. A year after my bone marrow transplant, we went out to Hull Ranch. We ran that trail. I felt the warmth of of the sun on my cheeks. I smelled the wildflowers. I heard Beck, and this time I got to the top, and I was celebrating being cancer-free for real. Your visualizations, everyone, if you can bring them to life every single day in your mind and feel what it's going to feel like to cross that finish line, world champion or whatever it is, like that is not wasted time. You are manifesting this happening. And I believe that all of these things, and lastly, one more thing, like stacking your doubts, you guys, before a race or in life in general, you know, you can stack all your doubts and it's not going to take you anywhere. But if you stack your proof in every moment right before the race, you're about to, you know, maybe the day before the race, like look at all your proof, the evidence of how far you've come, of the progress you've made. That's where I want you to log your progress. Like go back and stack your proof. Then you are filled with this knowing that anything and everything is possible. Like you all have proof. You all have proof of challenges you were able to overcome, you know, things that you have in your life now that you only dreamed of before. Again, be the champion of your own mind and stack your proof every single day. All these things, plus these 2 extraordinary clinical trials, the doctors and nurses, my hospital, and this, my mind, is why I'm living this miracle today. And all these things, guys, are things you do in preparing for sport. And just know that you are not just preparing yourself for your next race, you're preparing yourself for the inevitable challenges that are a part of life. So honor yourself in that and acknowledge that you have everything that you need to overcome anything that comes your way, but just be willing to acknowledge that you have all of this inside you already.
Sure. Yeah, I'm curious to hear, because I can resonate so much with everything that you're saying. And I feel like gratitude is a word that's going around a lot. And I feel, at least for myself, I wasn't able to realize how to live a life full of gratitude until I had a major setback. And it wasn't until I went through that process of climbing out from ground zero to the point where I could shift my mindset and reframe it to have the gratitude of, hey, any job that I can have where I have to be out and ride 5 hours on a Saturday, that's a pretty freaking cool job. For people that are sort of stuck in that gray area, like maybe their life isn't getting lived the way that they want it to, and they don't have anything that's going to really put a hard stop, like, oh, I've got a diagnosis, or I've torn my Achilles, or something big has happened that forces you into that sort of headspace. What sort of advice would you give someone who just wants to proceed with more happiness, gratitude, all of that?
Such a great question. You know, first of all, know this, that you live the life that you focus on. So if you focus on everything that's missing, everything that's wrong, that's a life you're going to live. It's a life where nothing's the way you want it to be. So it's up to you to choose to focus on everything that you can appreciate in every moment, good or bad, because then you will be living a life of gratitude. And when we're grateful, you'll find that there is more and more and more to be grateful for, because it's a higher energy state. And the energy we show up with in the world is the energy we get back. It's the law of attraction. You know, if you've got this low level energy, your results, your relationships, it's going to reflect that. So a way to start shifting into a life of higher energy, which is more gratefulness and appreciation, is, you know, start conditioning yourself to ask yourself in as many moments as possible, where's the gift in this? Or what can I appreciate about this? What's the gift in this? What's the gift in this? Pouring down rain here in California. Can't really go outside and run, but oh my God, our grass is going to be green. This is amazing. It's going to be so pretty. What's the gift in this? What can I appreciate in this moment? Maybe you're having a fight with your best friend and it's horrible. But if you say, what can I appreciate about this? Well, I know that with every deep argument, no matter how uncomfortable it is, it always deepens a relationship on the other side. So as you train your brain to start finding the gift in everything, and it becomes a question you ask yourself multiple times a day, your life begins to transform. And with that higher energy, gratitude is a high energy state. Again, you come into the world with this higher energy, you're attracting back like energy. And life starts to change. You experience more joy, you experience more fulfillment, and life becomes this beautiful field of miracles. And that's what it's meant to be, good times and bad. So I'd say that's my recommendation.
Yeah, I love that. Well, you're like such a breath of fresh air. I feel like 2025 can be a challenging time to live in. And so I can't recommend enough if you're interested in checking out Siri's stuff. Like she's written 2 books. Is that correct?
Yeah.
2 book.
Yeah.
She's got a documentary coming out now. Like, yeah, there's so much untapped with this person. And so like, yeah, thank you so much for giving us a little bit of insight into your life and your world and your perspectives today. Before we wrap up the podcast, I've got 6 rapid fire questions.
Let's go.
Okay. If you had to pick one emoji to exclusively use, you have to get rid of all the other ones. Which one are you choosing?
Thankfulness.
Okay. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. What is your go-to pick-me-up snack or drink when you need a boost to lock in to like write chapters of a book or get on stage and speak? What do you go for?
A cup of English breakfast tea with a little bit of my sweet cream creamer.
Nice. All right. Number 3, what is the hardest training session you've ever given an athlete?
There's a lot of those. I would say climbing to Estes Park, finishing the last hour in a hard, like 40K time trial, and running off the bike 10 times 1 mile with a minute rest. One way kind of slightly uphill, one way slightly downhill. So it ends up being like a 7-hour day, and it's wicked hard, and it tests your endurance. But when they finish, it's like they just know they're ready.
Yeah. Rinny, I asked Rinny a very similar question, and she spoke about the same training day in a little bit more detail. So for those fans out there, this one was documented quite well on YouTube. So if you give it a quick search, you'll be able to find exactly what Siri's talking about. I think she was featured in those videos as well. So number 4, if you had to rescue 15 animals, they can't be dogs, cats, or horses, what species are you choosing to integrate onto the ranch?
Oh, wow. We just started rescuing mini donkeys, but I guess that's still equine. So, oh my God, that's such a great question. Koala bears. Do I get more than one choice?
No, I think only one. That's
okay.
the rules.
My God. Okay.
Koala bears would be amazing.
Pigs. 1,000,000% pigs. Oh my God.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, totally. Bring them on. Bring the pigs. Yes, pigs.
All right. Like we said, Jeannie and I are coming, so we're gonna be mucking the pigs. We're gonna be mucking the horses with the donkeys. Jeannie's gonna love the mini donkeys. That's gonna like make her life.
I can't.
All right. You've given so many awesome words of wisdom here, but if you had to pick one more piece of advice, of racing advice for athletes listening, what would it be?
I think you'll agree with this one. When you get out there, just celebrate all the great work that you've done. Race day should be a day of celebration, not a judgment day. Celebrate all the work that you've done. Thank your body and have fun, because that's what this really should be all about.
Great answer. And final one, what's the best piece of life advice for anyone who may be kind of struggling out there?
Be you. Be all of who you are. You'll be super powered when you can accept and acknowledge all that you are and just show up in the world, firing on all cylinders. But that also means that, and this may be a little foo-foo, but like self-love is everything. You got to be your own champion. And I really ask that you all love yourself in the same way you love your most precious person in your life. Speak to yourself like you speak to them. Treat yourself like you treat them. When you start loving yourself, it is extraordinary how empowered you become. And there's a freedom and a liberation that I can't even express how important that is. So do
awesome.
that.
Amazing answer. Well, Siri, you're the absolute best. Thank you so much for coming on today. This was a pleasure.
Thank you, Justin. Thank you, everyone, for listening. You're amazing, Justin. Thank you for bringing this to all your listeners, and live your best life, everyone. What a privilege to be here with you.
See you in the next episode. Peace.
Thanks, Justin.